Hi, my name is Greg Clemens. I'm with ProAudioHomeStudio.com. ProAudioHomeStudio.com is dedicated to helping you find the right professional equipment for your home studio. When I was growing up, practically nobody could afford to have their own recording studio, a really professional recording studio, where you could really make albums, records, songs, music that sounded like the hits, that sounded like what you're hearing on the radio or your favorite albums. That was a big problem because a lot of the engineers or the owners of the recording studios typically were engineers, but they were so into the technical aspect of it. They knew every model of every piece of equipment and all the technical reasons how all this equipment worked, but they couldn't quite get it to sound like our favorite records. So they kind of sapped all the magic out of recording, and it'd take so long to record anything. And then when you were finished, you had a kind of sick feeling in your stomach because it just didn't sound the way you heard it in your head, or that you heard on some other record of one of your favorite artists that sounded great, and you just couldn't understand why your records couldn't sound like that. That was a big problem, and a lot of musicians felt like they were beating their head against the wall. They'd go into a recording studio and save up thousands of dollars to go in for just a few days and come out with something that really sounded like a mediocre demo. And that was heartbreaking because you spent all your money. Nowadays, things are totally different. You can buy professional recording gear that you can use in your home studio day or night. Owning your own equipment saves you a ton of money because you don't have to pay an hourly fee to a recording studio. Those who could afford to have their own professional recording studios sometimes found they had to record other people all the time in order to pay for the equipment. It was so expensive. So they didn't really have any time to record their own music if they were in fact musicians. And that was another problem. So many people who owned studios weren't musicians. They were audio engineers and really into the technical aspect of it. So much so, they would know every model number of every piece of equipment they had, but they couldn't make music. As a musician, you hear things in your head, and nothing is more heartbreaking than to go into a recording studio and you're just not getting that. It's totally alien sounding to you. It's so sterile and lifeless, you just want to erase it. But you can't. You have to finish it because you're paying for it. So it's a horrible thing. But now really with just a small amount of money compared to what the professional recording studios spend on gear, you can have all the tools to realize your musical dream. I started out as a singer-songwriter, and I recorded 2 albums on CBS Records years ago. And I was really fortunate because I got to record with some of the best engineers, producers, and musicians and studios in the world. I was blessed to be able to record with great bass players like Jerry Scheff, who played with Elvis for 8 years and played on Roadhouse Blues with The Doors. John Entwistle of The Who. Great drummers like Terry Bozzio, who played with Frank Zappa and Missing Persons. Ed Green, who played with the Jackson 5. Ian Wallace, who was with King Crimson and Bob Dylan. Great keyboard players like Ian Underwood of the Mothers of Invention. Jai Wending, who's played with Stevie Nicks and too many others to name. Al Cooper from Blood, Sweat and Tears. And the great Nicky Hopkins, who played with the Rolling Stones, the Beatles, and the Jeff Beck Group. Great producers like Paul Gervitz from Gun, Pete Solly, who produced the Romantics and Peter Frampton, Steve Brown, who engineered for the Rolling Stones and produced Elton John, Reinhold Mack, or Mack, who produced the Electric Light Orchestra and Queen, and great guitar players like Rod Stewart's guitarist, Robin LeMessurier, and the incredible Jeff Skunk Baxter from the Doobie Brothers and Steely Dan. It was so great to watch these pros up close and see how they work. The audio engineers were so good. They took basic equipment and were able to really make magic out of it because they knew so much about the equipment. They knew what they were doing. They made it look easy, but the knowledge that they had was great. And they made things sound like music. They weren't into the technical thing so much. They were really there to make things sound great. Near where I lived, there was a very good professional recording studio that offered audio engineering classes that I took. The classes were a real eye-opener for me. I learned so much about the technical end of recording and the proper way to use equipment. My home studio was a dream come true for me. I could work anytime I wanted. I didn't have to worry about paying someone an hourly rate. And I could keep working on things until I got it the way I wanted it. After a while, other musicians started to contact me to see if they could book recording time in my home studio. That was great because all those sessions eventually paid for all my equipment, and I still had plenty of time to work on my own music. You know, education is the most important part of your home studio. The equipment that you buy won't work by itself. You have to have somebody who knows how to use it. You need to learn as much as you can about recording to make great professional sounding music. Today is very exciting. YouTube has so many great tutorials out there on any kind of recording equipment you can imagine. Tips, techniques. There's great tutorials on any kind of recording editing software you can imagine, plugins, virtual instruments, anything you can think of, microphones, how to record vocals, how to record guitars, how to record drums. All of that's on YouTube. It's incredible what you can learn on YouTube if you just take the time to look at it. You can find great interviews with some of the world's best producers, audio engineers, musicians. It's all out there. There's no reason why you can't become an expert audio engineer, and that helps you become your best producer for your music. So I invite you to take a look at www.proaudiohomestudio.com, and good luck with making your musical dreams a reality. Thanks.